Episode 2, Attack of the Tones. We have changed a few things from last time. We changed camera position. We had it on an angle, and it was just terrible. I looked terrible. It looked very impersonal. Originally, I was thinking since I was recording it for a podcast, the camera placement didn't really matter. It does. So that's the first part. Secondly, I got my microphone closer to me. Hopefully, it picks up my voice a little bit better. A couple people said that my vocals needed to be a little louder. And other than that, hopefully I am more engaged with the camera. That's another thing that someone said. I am going to have to look up and down from my notes, like the points that I want to make, versus actually looking at the camera. I don't have anything memorized. Maybe I should. Maybe I should have it memorized. But that's where we're at. Today we're actually going to talk about the antagonists, the bad guys, the black hats, the evil dudes of the whole storyline behind the film I'm trying to make. So, I actually have an overall evil entity that controls the human characters, and it usually presents itself as a method of swift personal destruction. I need to give this a name. It's the evil object. So that's what I'm talking about. It's gonna have a better name eventually. Right now, it's the EO. The humans are all there's three different people. They're all corrupt, not so good people morally, mentally, physically messed up. They're easy targets for the EO, and they are Cider, Izzy, and Susan. Now, I picked those names kind of out of laziness. The main evil bad guy, his name has been Cider, and the three people's names are Sue, Izzy, Cider. I think you can probably put that together as one word. Might be too on the nose. I'm not necessarily going to ever say their names all together, so maybe it's not. I don't know. I'll change it. But Sue, Izzy, Cider, Susan, Cider, Izzy. Anything can change. I can change all their names. They don't have to be these names. This is just for me to remember who they are right now. Once I get to writing and, actually naming them in script, they can change to anything we want. So it doesn't really matter just as long as I know who I'm talking about. So they're all going to be very different in tone, hence the Attack of the Tones title on this episode. Susan is a widow from the 50s. She's kind of a more well-to-do black woman in Central Texas in the 50s. Izzy is a grave digger, and more or less now, maybe 5 years ago, that kind of maybe just a little bit in the past, but not too far. She's a grave digger, small little young Latino woman. And then Cider is going to be present day, and he's just a big, oafy, giant, crazy, drug-addled idiot in a biker gang. Thinks he's more important than he is. Out in West Texas is where he's going to be doing most of his stuff. So basically next we got a synopsis of each character. Just sort of their basic story. None of this might be in the film, but I like having a decent amount of backstory so that I know where to write their everything from, like where their motivation comes from, where their word choices come from, where their direction needs to make them feel more realistic. And without a backstory, they're just flat characters, whether you show the backstory or not, in my opinion. So, and these are quick backstories. I'm obviously glossing over a lot that I'm going to fill in eventually. I think I might have an episode on each character. This is just introductions to the characters. So, first, we have Susan. She's a widow. It's in the 50s. She and her husband are super in love. Her husband's her entire world. They have 4 kids, and they all go on to be successful. And the husband, his life is tragically cut short by the hands of a drunk driver. This slowly makes Susan angrier and angrier, and she starts treating everyone around her terribly. She starts abusing her grandchildren whenever she's watching them. She basically grows into a hateful, spiteful widow, and she hates the world, and eventually one of her grandchildren leaves a gun at her house, the titular EO. And eventually, she decides that she would rather be with her beloved husband than in this terrible world that she has to live in. So She sees the gun that she's been keeping that her grandchild left at her house. I think I skipped over it, but instead, basically, she keeps the gun as a punishment that anyone would dare leave something like that at her house. So she put it up, and she's not giving it back to her grandchild. And as the gun is sitting in her closet, its evil presence is slowly permeating through her mind and making her even more and more of a terrible person and more sad of a person until finally the EO's influence over her makes her succumb to what it wants in the first place, which is for her to use him. That's his whole motivation and goal, is to be used. He always shows up as a method of quick dispatchment. And she wants to be with her husband more than anything. She just wants to be back with the only thing in her life that meant anything, that gave her any sense of being, sense of well-being, any love. And with shaky hands, she grabs the gun. Her anger turns into tears, and her grimace becomes determination and resignation. And, you know, the next character, Izzy, a gravedigger. I don't know much about gravediggers aside from how they've been represented in media. I don't know any personal gravediggers. Gonna have to do a little bit of research to see if this even makes sense. But this is the story as it is now, which is all from my noggin with very little actual like facts into it, which I'm not cool with. So story, not so much fact. But essentially, I think Izzy should be a small frame, kind of short Latino woman, Latin woman. I promise I want to be as PC as possible. I don't mean to offend anyone. I'm just trying to explain the characters the best I can with what little descriptive knowledge I have. So I think I want her to be kind of like a small, little, tough, fiery package that's like angry in her late 20s. She has this job because she is actually in prison for felonies for 5 years, and this was the only job that she could get. This is her backstory. I don't really plan on her being in the movie too much, the film too much, but this is her backstory. Who knows? She might even just be in passing, and no one knows any of this except for you guys watching, listening. But essentially, back when she was 17 or 18, she was riding around with her drug dealer boyfriend. She knew he was a drug dealer, but she didn't know anything else. And whenever they got pulled over down in South Texas, the cop finds all of the meth and various other drugs that they were drug running down up north. Whenever the cops pull him out of the car, the boyfriend immediately says, "I don't know about any of that. All of this is hers. She forced me to come." Essentially convinced the police that he had nothing to do with it and it was all her. She ends up doing 5 years federal prison over the amount of meth that they found. And prison was not good to her. Prison was, from the beginning, choices kept representing themselves as terrible or worse. And throughout the 5 years, she ended up with nothing but regrets from what she did and what was done to her. She finally was released, and when she tried to start her life over, there was no jobs. No one wanted to hire her, and eventually this grave digging opportunity popped up, and she took it because she needed something. As she's out there in the graveyard all alone at night, every night, asleep during the day when everyone else is awake, it just helps her fall slowly and slowly into a darker, lonely hole of herself and what she had to go through, what she went through. And she always noticed in one part of the cemetery it made her really depressed, sad, sometimes nauseous. And it was just this one back corner of the cemetery. There were a few gravestones. It seemed like they were so old and weathered that you couldn't even really figure out what they said. And then there was a lot of other blank places that could have been graves without headstones. One day she was given the task of digging a grave out on that part of the cemetery, and she feels the overwhelming sense of depression, fear, anger, all the negative, wonderful human emotions we get to deal with. And as she's digging down, about 4 feet down, her shovel clinks into something metallic, and she uncovers a white linen gloved hand clutching a black revolver. Undigging a little bit more, the hand was attached to an arm, which was attached to an elderly African American woman, and she feels like she needs to take the gun, hides it, in her bag or something, and then calls the police and has them come and dig up, which should be obviously Susan. She got her wish. She got to spend her last moments with her husband. But he was already buried, so that's where she got to meet up. Now, the gun didn't do this by accident. The gun has a particular destiny in mind, just like the ring from the Lord of the Rings. Not the ring. There is no ring in the ring anyway. Just like Lord of the Rings, it's just biding its time until it can get to the next character, which is Cider. So essentially, in this part I haven't really figured out yet, Izzy needs to no longer have the gun, and Cider needs to find it. Now, Izzy, with her terrible boyfriend and her drug relations, her idea to grab the gun, and how deep, dark, and depressed and regretful she's already been, she apparently is going to go somewhere, use it, and Cider is going to find it. Details in the future. But that leads us into Cider. So, Cider is a big old oaf. He's a 6'1", 220, muscular, shaved head, mostly like just with like a buzzed cut, I guess. He has a tattoo across his forehead that's like a dashed line with the little scissors. He has ears gauged out, nose ring. He has neck tattoos. He's a biker, like a higher ranking official in his biker gang. He gun runs. He racketeering. He's essentially all the weapon running. He's drug running. All the fun stuff that bikers do. If you've seen Sons of Anarchy, he's one of the douchebags from that show. I haven't really seen that show, but I've seen clips. Anyway, so he is kind of just he's never going to be more than what he is until he comes across the EO. And the EO not only convinces him to pick him up, but he helps Cider in ways that is going to eventually help EO fulfill the destiny that he has. So Cider is going to be given opportunities and be put in situations that are going to lead to him being very successful in the criminal world. More so than anyone has ever expected from him, and he's going to use that underestimation to his advantage and be able to raise higher and get more of what he wants. He's still pretty much going to have a selfish drive. His intelligence never really improves, but he is going to be positioned into a main bad guy, main supervillain. If this is a superhero story, he'd be put into that kind of situation, that kind of a environment. He's eventually want to find the maker of the EO, which is what's going to tie him into the mask maker from the first scene that I talked about in the first episode. Cider he's going to be a meth head. He's going to be on psychedelics. He's going to, drink way too much. He's going to be chauvinistic. He's going to be a total just douche of a man. Just a complete worthless douche to start off with. And he's going to put up the front of being tough. Even when he's alone, he's going to be tough and angry and rah. But as the EO slowly, pushes its influence over him, he's going to become sad and brooding until eventually he becomes so depressed that he ends up wanting to use the EO also. And that's going to be what eventually gets him in contact with the mask maker. So some of the stuff I want to come across here is that the EO doesn't care what type of person you are. If it sees that it has a weakness that it can exploit in order to get to where it wants to be, where it feels that it's going to be based on its own goals, it's going to use anyone and anything that he see that is manipulatable, easily manipulated. Yeah. And the EO itself destroys a person mentally and morally before it eventually destroys them mortally. And then like throughout the short film, I want long lingering shots of the EO with, you know, creepy music and strained stares and eyes darting back and forth at it and away from it. And I want it to become the character that an inanimate object needs to be. Uh, I want the music, the lighting, and angles to all help give the EO the character treatment that it needs. As far as what it is, I'm going to do a little bit more research into some occult stuff, some mythological stuff, and cursed objects and magic, and it's going to be something along those lines, but I want it to have a little bit more of a history and a little bit more of a basis before I give it a definition just yet. But that's the direction. And kind of Lovecraftian, kind of otherworldly. I don't know if y'all have ever actually read it, not just seen the movies or the other movies or the show, I think. But the book, there's like a whole group of chapters towards the end that describe it as a celestial being, an embodiment of evil that, you know, floats through space in the wake of other better entities and revels in the destruction and the death that they leave behind, kind of a deal. Stephen King was apparently blackout drunk during the writing of these parts, and whenever he read them the next day hungover, he couldn't believe some of the stuff that came out. But based on his deadline and what worked and what didn't, he left a lot of it in the book. And when you read it and when you see it from that point of view, it really ups the frightening level, the mind blowing, your brain can't comprehend this insanity kind of a aspect of the clown Pennywise. That's basically the amount of evil and concept behind the EO. And the mask maker essentially is just going to be channeling that uh, evil entity into an object, and that's how it's going to be able to push its influence onto the other characters throughout. Um, I think other than that, let's see. Other points. All the characters are going to be different kinds of sad, evil, and destructive, like different amounts of each. They're going to have the same ending, but all are going to have different interactions. Oh, that's a good idea. I forgot I wrote that down. I think they all should have different interactions with the mask maker. Like maybe he appears in the mirror or in the corner of the eye of one of the characters, whereas Cider has direct confrontation with him. Maybe Izzy realizes that her boss is the mask maker. Or so. Like I think there's different ways you can weave him into the other people's stories in the background, so that he has more impact whenever he's brought to the foreground in their stories. And I think that's basically where we're gonna end this one. This is about the same amount of time. I think I don't know yet. I haven't looked at anything. This is just recorded in one take with a bunch of mess ups that I'm going to edit out. But I think I probably need to work on looking at the camera more, looking at my notes less, and maybe talking clearer and maybe staying more focused. I feel like I still kind of waffle and drift a little bit more than I should. Other than that, let me know what you think of these characters' stories. They're very basic at the moment, with lots of room to inflate or deflate, depending on where they land in the story. Really, I'm just trying to get everything fleshed, and then that way, whenever I drop a story into this world, it's easy to flesh out and feel how it's going to go from beginning to end because you already know how the world works. But okay, that is the end of this one. Catch you on the flip side, and we'll talk about location, scene setups, and how mood and look are going to accentuate these characters. And maybe even go into the costume and prop design stuff that I've been working on for these guys. I completely forgot. I wanted to actually talk about the fact that I brainstormed a lot of this gun transporting people after they use it on themselves idea to a terrible place or a better place or another dimension, another world, wherever it might transport them. I came up with all this with a really good friend of mine, Tom Temez. Let's go ahead and show his picture here. For those of you listening, he looks like a giant Samoan and he's actually just a giant Mexican dude. When I met him, he looked like the lead singer of Coheed and Cambria, had giant hair and a giant beard, and then he got respectable and shaved down his Sasquatchianness and became the Tom that we all know and love, and my boss for a little while. That was fun, but I just wanted to make sure that he gets the proper shout out. A lot of the idea was made with him together when we were just knocking around ideas and stories back and forth. So shout out to Tom, and if he wants me to put any other socials of his on here, I will throw them on there now. And if he doesn't, then nothing will happen right there. All right, y'all have a good one. Catch y'all on the flip side, and we will talk to y'all soon. Talk to y'all soon. Talk to y'all soon. Talk to y'all